Hello everybody and welcome back to Muramasa the Demon's Blade. This is the final act of Momohime's story. And as I mentioned before, this is about the time when Odin Sphere Leaf Dressier came out, and I played that for a while, and then I came back to Muramasa, and I was like, how the fuck do I play this game? Oh no. But yeah, today is gonna be a little bit of backtracking, a little bit of exploring, not much to do anymore. We are at the final story, and luckily, Momohime starts at right about where her story ends. So we just showed off Cursed Moon. It's basically the crescent slash that we've seen a lot of the samurai use. Most notably Yukinojo, but his was a little bit larger. Now for our story, we gotta cross through Iga and then get to Yamato, which is not a long trip. And we've been to Iga before, I believe. Yeah, we've been to Iga before, so we have everything explored. However, I do believe I demonstrate a new sword here. Takes a while to get into an encounter, though. This is Hell's Gate. If you've seen Hell's Gates before, it's the same thing. Nothing really impressive. We also get Vortex, which is Cyclone on crack. I wish I had more opportunities to use this weapon because it's really good, but I'm not really at the capstone for Momohime's swords, and we only see this once, unfortunately. Which is a shame because it's a really neat looking attack. I just can't use it yet. I just don't use it much. That's the only time I use it, actually. Here's our actual new sword. This is the Ground Runner. If you ever played a if you've ever played a King of Fighters game, it's basically the ground fireball that all the people use in that game. Though I've used it in other fights in Momohime's last story, and I believe at some point if you use it in a certain circumstance, it also explodes, but I don't know what triggers it. And I don't mean explodes like on impact, I mean you get another explosion, but I don't know what causes it. My luck with frogs. Now, I believe we've been to Yamato District as well, but we've also been there in Kisuke's story, so I might be getting them mixed up. Nah, we haven't been to Yamato as Momohime. Yamato doesn't have much to it, so I'm not going to show off much. It only has a hot spring, a store, and an encounter where I believe I get a really good item. This is where you get the Dragon God Mask for Momohime. That is the mask that lets you go up 5 strength, 5 vitality, which means you go up 1 sword. Though I do believe at this point I also get capstone on Momohime's weaponry, so it doesn't matter much. Yep, Demon God Mask. I mainly equip that just because even if I am capstone on weapons, 5 attack is pretty good. It'd be better to also get the Tumult Gauntlet since it brings you up to +6 attack, but I like having a spread. I like having versatility. Just wanted to keep that fight to show off how fun Cursed Moon is. But we also have enough souls now to get a new weapon. Yeah, this is when having the +5 to stats is really good, because now we get to use the Sword of the Harbinger off sequence. But I believe that's also the last sword we could use. Because to progress forward, we need to have a sword that we don't have yet. Here we're gonna show off what Retribution does. It's basically the fireball shield. Not that great. Momohime actually ends her campaign with a lot of mediocre skills, unfortunately. None of them really help for what she has to do in the fight at hand, and it kinda makes things rough. Especially when her fight is interesting, to say the least. It's not a standard beatdown like we've been doing before. No, there's actually a neat trick to the last fight for Momohime, which makes it a lot more fun, but also makes her skills seem somewhat middling. Also, I never did talk to Kongiku. Yeah, Fudomyo, I believe it's pronounced, is another... I believe it's another form of Buddhism, I'm not 100% sure. I know it's another religion among the variety that Japan has, which is like Shintoism, Buddhism, Christianity, which was starting to rear its head. There's a lot of clashing religion in Japan. And even then, Buddhism had a couple separate sects. Here's the store that's making me, guilt-tripping me into buying stuff or God will punish me. Which he's gonna do, because we are playing as Jinkuro, who is a known criminal. Oh, so, I've been talking bullshit. The Tumult Gauntlets aren't the best gauntlet. There are Demon God Gauntlets. I think at this point I decide, you know, I could really use some cooking ingredients. So I get all that I can, which is actually not much at this guy's store. Just splurging my money because I know I'm not going to need it later. Once we get past the main game, we could actually farm certain encounters to get money. And I don't mean these baby-ass encounters, I mean big encounters. And I never did get the cooked fish recipe for Momohime. That is very unfortunate. That explains why I was so low on resources. I also want to equip these whetstones because you're gonna need them for the fight ahead. Because there's a lot gonna go on that goes on. It also doesn't help that at this point Momohime is gonna fight a lot of master ninjas, which means your swords are gonna break a lot. Out here we get an item. I believe it's just rice though. Oh! More hot pot recipes. Color me surprised. If you can't tell, it's been kinda long. I do like the woolly eyeball encounters because it's a free batch of EXP along with basically no cost whatsoever. If you do it right, you don't waste your quick draw. But out here, we get the final hot spring scene. Now for both arcs there's a final scene, and Momohime's is a bit goofy. I like to imagine that all of Momohime's problems with the Aboro Star are not due to the fact that she's her body's falling apart due to all the stress. It's the fact that Jinkuro is just drinking so much that it's ruining Momohime's body. I also love the fact that Jinkuro tried to hide this by saying, "Oh, evil sword style is destroying your body. I'm sorry." It's a really silly ending cutscene, which befits Jinkuro's general archetype to a T. He's a bit evil, but he's also pretty much a goofball. And we are at the final level now. Which is going to be a bit of a mess of encounters, because you're gonna be fighting Master Ninja, Elder Tengu, and Evil Monks. And I bring up Evil Monks specifically because in this circumstance, whenever they start up an attack, they cannot be interrupted. Which can absolutely cause problems if you're not paying attention. Mainly they're a spin staff that goes into a stab that has a really good does a really good job at breaking your swords. Look at this little corner of ninjas here. What is this? This little cubbyhole of ninjas that are just hanging out. I believe right there, Death 1 procced, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I don't remember any of my swords having Death 1. Now, if this tile set looks familiar to you and you've been watching the LP as it goes live, this is actually the tile set that we went to in Kisuke's arc when we fought Tsuchigumo. There's not a whole lot of differences presentation-wise, but once we hit the end, it will all make sense. It kind of makes sense to begin with because Yamato is like the heart of where all of, I'm assuming the heart of where all Buddhist religion is in Japan. I'm just basing this assumption on what we've gone through in the story. But it would make sense that there's a lot of similar looking shrines in Yamato because of this. But this also means we're basically going to be seeing a longer version of the dungeon that we went through as Kisuke. And for whatever reason, I'm going for finishing these moth fights when I really shouldn't. I think I'm trying to get that level up because the attack power is going to make a difference. We also fight a lot of monks in this chapter, which makes perfect sense, honestly. This is supposed to be Rankai's headquarters, so naturally there's a lot of monks. Yeah, at this point I'm pretty sure I'm going for new swords, because there's really no reason I should be killing these enemies unless I'm going for the souls. Now, the big gist of this dungeon is that it's a huge zigzag across various rooms, which makes it not easy to get lost in, but it also means you're going to be going through a lot of forced fights. This not being one of them, but yeah, the encounters do pile up and kind of take up a good point of your time. To wit, 6 fucking Master Ninjas. If there was ever a tedium, it's this. Because they are basically every ninja moveset in one. Luckily, I swept them up quite cleanly. Not long after we kill them, like 3 steps afterwards, we fight 6 monks. Like, I get that you're trying to make this a dire battle for Jinkuro, but it really feels kinda overwhelming and not in the good way. It feels like you're just going through the motions rather than going through tough fights. The boss fight does make it all worth it, but the general layout of the dungeon is just really long and uninspired. Nice looking though. I do like seeing the giant statues in the back as we traverse through the area. Can you really call one hit a combo? I know I'm arguing semantics here, but that's a little strange to me. I think at this point I just start getting frustrated about the poison, but decide against it. And I believe we get into a fight here that shows us the cool foreground effect for this tile set. probably in the next 1 or 2 rooms, though. Unfortunately, it wasn't there. You get the Demon God belt. Like, I understand why you would put Vitality in this game, but having an individual Vitality stat buff is not really that good, just because you don't really get a lot of HP out of the Vitality stat. And especially since there's an accessory that just straight up increases your HP by 10%, so the Vitality items seem a little bit, unnecessary? I know why they put it in there. It's meant to balance off the fact that there are weapons with strength bonuses. And if you want to go 1-up early on, you would get the Vitality accessories, but it just seemed like the least useful item out of the bunch. Also, this is an area that just piles on the DOTs. Because I've been getting poisoned and caught on fire a lot this chapter. We are roughly halfway through the stage now, thank goodness. And I got way more than enough souls, but then I realize I am capstoned. So these are the weapons I'm going to be sticking with. And I think at about this point I realize I have absolutely no reason for fighting those moths anymore. Yeah, that's the realization of, aw, man, these are my weapons. Yeah, right here I realize there's no point, I'm just gonna go. And we're also gonna see, at some point, me rolling. I don't think I ever went into it in detail during the entire Let's Play, but you can roll in this game. Normally to roll you do a double tap motion, but if you do kind of like a quarter circle like in a Street Fighter, you could also get a roll out of that, and that's how you chain your rolls. It's really useful for getting away from the moths. I don't know, something about killing someone with the Crescent Moon makes me smile. Just throw that dinky little wave and it explodes. It's really humorous to me. As I mentioned before in Kisuke's story, the statues here are actually alive, which imposes that sense of divinity within this area, which is a neat little touch. Yeah, right about there, I'm just like, I could roll past these assholes. Yeah, the big reason why I'm a little bit sad at my weapon layout is because none of the weapons I have do AoE attacks, which means I can't exactly clear the field as easily as I did when I had, say, Hell's Gate or a Dark Cross. Though I could get lucky like that and do a really cool 3 multi-kill with Curse and Moon. Yeah, roll is really nice because the invincibility frames allow you to dodge through certain attacks. But it's not really that practical in combat because you have weapon skills. This is probably the only time I actively use the roll. And look, it's Mount Fuji in the background. I was talking before about a painting involving Mount Fuji, and somebody brought up... oh, fuck, what was it? 170 paintings of Mount Fuji? And I feel like this scene in particular would be one of them, since you can see Mount Fuji right there. Since Mount Fuji is like the tallest peak in Japan, naturally everybody wants to draw it. Unfortunately, I rolled too late there and I got poisoned. Boo. And this is an item that I'm pretty sure I am over... Yep. There's something about Asian culture in general, but the yellow cloud signifying divinity is a very common thing to see, and I don't quite know why they chose yellow. Maybe it's due to the fact that the sun hits the clouds and gives it that yellow hue that's the reason, but it's a very interesting thing to see in Asian cultures depicting, you know, heaven and divinity and all that like. It's very prominent here since it's us trying to get into heaven. And here we are at the final boss. Now, out of all the dishes, it's probably best to get the stewed tofu because that's plus 10 to attack and vitality, which helps pretty much a lot. But yeah, who could the final boss of Momohime's story be? It is not Yukinojo, believe it or not. And we actually get to hear Jinkuro's full name. His name is Izuna Jinkuro.
その剣に不覚を取り、新影流に泥を塗ったこの雪の女、もとより命は捨てる覚悟。だが、こたびは試合に来たのではない。蘭海上人に詰め寄って、桃姫がいかな苦境にあるか、真相を問いただし、救わんがためにこうして駆けつけた。寸分にて勝負前に尋ねられた太刀の行方、それがし、偽りを答えた。
That was where the sword was the entire time, across 5 chapters. It wasn't in hell, or heaven, or in Kagami District. Jinkuro just fucking lied, and we took his lie at face value. Now this is an interesting development here, and it's a neat bit of drama. Yukinojo specifically wants to see the Dark Resurrection technique. And Jinkuro calls him out on it, because he's not really being subtle about it. Yukinojo, that is. Also, man, these mountains are kind of rough. And no, the final boss is actually not Rankai. You'd think after all we've been through, the final boss of Momohime's story would be Rankai, but it's not. They even tease you with it right here. It's like, I will end your life right here. Get ready to fight me. But yeah, out of all the things we could fight, these two appear. I honestly don't know who these two are. Like, they give you their names, but I have never seen these two in any form of Japanese media, and I haven't really looked into religious history for Japan, so I have no idea who they are. If I had to guess, they're retainers of a specific god, because we're gonna be fighting a god. We are fighting Fudomio himself. Also these two jackasses, but mainly Fudomio.
仏の守護が相手とはわしの悪も極まった。かくなる上は神仏をも両断する妖刀村正。嘘か誠か試してやろう。
So, the Fudomio fight is mainly you have to break a bunch of barriers, but the barriers are reinforced by Fudomio's guardians. So you have to kill them first, then kill the barrier, and you have to do this 3 times. Normally, a gimmick fight like this would kinda frustrate me, but for whatever reason, I really like this fight. Like, it's just enough of a gimmick to where you're not face-rolling the boss with the same combo over and over again. But it still has that element of threat. You have enemies trying to fight you, you have a goal you gotta achieve, and there's threats everywhere. Also, anyways, the 2 attacks of them are different. I don't know who I would prioritize more than anything. The big brass guy has a lot of melee attacks, he has a lot of mobility, and he's generally going to be trying to destroy the environment. The dude with the flower, he mainly does projectiles and area denial, but he has a set of laser attacks right there that are really annoying, because you have to either roll or weapon attack through them, and they will go through the entire screen depending on where they are. But yeah, due to the gimmick of this fight, the game outright tells you what to do step for step. I can understand why they did it, because this is a complete departure from what we've been doing the entire game. But I feel like after the first 2, you can't even see the other barriers, so it makes sense that they would have to tell you where they are. Maybe a cutscene showing the seal would have been a better idea, but I feel like the use of messages kinda detracts from some of the fluidity of this fight. Because I do like this fight a lot. This is a really cool fight. And it's appropriate for someone like Jinkuro, who went from fighting demons to gods, and now he has to fight the god. He has to fight the Almighty and his guardians. It's a really nice looking design too. Fudomio looks nuts. I'm also kind of surprised that I'm not getting shocked here, because that laser gun's really close. Now, I feel like this fight does last a little bit too long, because it does follow the rule of 3s, but it does it twice. It feels like it's just a little bit too long, you know? I can understand why they did it, because they wanted to make it feel like a final boss, and having 3 quick phases wouldn't cut it. But it does kind of tie up, because you have to kill each of the bosses once individually for their respective seals. Then you have to kill both bosses at the same time to get the 3rd seal. And after you're done with that, you gotta do it again. So that's, what? That's once for each boss, then the seal, so you have to kill both guardians a grand total of 4 times to completely beat Fudomio. Now here's an attack that is their most dangerous attack, and I've never seen it point blank in my life. It's basically an attack where they become completely invincible, go to the center of the screen, and explode, doing wide areas of damage. And I never see that attack, because when I hear 2 bosses chant in unison a grand attack noise, I run the fuck away. So I apologize for you not being able to see that attack, but I'm pretty sure that would just kill me outright. But right now, I believe I have to kill the thin one once more to get at Fudomio's elbow, then I have to kill them both again to get to his head. But I'm pretty sure even a child would notice right now that what we're fighting is not really Fudomio. So we are basically just fighting these 2 guys 6 times. 4 times, sorry. What is math? There we go. Yeah, the main issue here is not going to be the boss's attacks, because they're very predictable once you get your head around them. The issue is to randomly fall on rocks that will knock you off these very thin platforms into pain and despair. Like, almost right there. But luckily, these two jokers are right here, and I need to kill both of them to get to Fudomio's head. I am staying onto this rock platform to save my damn life. But not anymore, because I'm pretty sure I'm about to get lasered off. Yeah, if you notice, some of the falling rocks actually have a glow to them. Those are platforms being restored, so you can never truly lose all your platforms. But you could go a really long time without them. At this point, I'm all the way back down at the bottom of the arena. And getting back up is going to be a huge pain. But luckily, I've killed the red ones, so they won't be able to do their synchronized attack anymore. There we go. And with that final kill, it's time to beat up Fudomio's dumb head. And we did it? Sure doesn't feel like it, though. And for beating Fudomio, we get Descent into Misery, which is actually quite poignant for this ending. We didn't fight Fudomio. It was kind of obvious. But this asshole was faking. Gotta admit though, the God of Wisdom in Japanese Buddhism's pretty rad. After the events that unfold, Momohime is perfectly fine.
Jinkuro が切りつけた不動様はただの仏像であった。本当の不動様が現れて、それから思い出せぬ。それにしてもまるで生まれ変わったような不思議な心地。わらわがこうしているからには。ジンクロの魂は外か。ジンクロ、どこにいるのじゃろう。どうなってしまったのか教えておくれ。本菊ではありませんか。狐は仏殿に入れぬと言うていたのに、どうしたのです、泣いて。どうしても最後にジンクロ様とお会いしたくてお別れに参ったのでございます。
Yep. After all the events that have gone down, Jinkuro has failed in his mission. But because Jinkuro failed, Momohime gets to live. And yeah, we knew this way ahead of time, but because of Fudomio appearing, Rankai has had a religious epiphany. Which makes it kind of parallel to the EQ discussion that we were talking about of the corrupted monk. And here's the guy himself. Hi, Jinkuro. You can tell at this point that Jinkuro's trying to play this off as kind of a badass, but he's actually really glad that Momohime is alright. Which proves that Jinkuro ain't exactly a bad guy. He just had really, he just had malign intents, but he wasn't actually bad. All he wanted to do was just keep his fighting style alive, much like his mentor. And now he has to burn in hell for it. But to be fair, he's leaving off on a really good line.
その面白くもない人生をつつましく生きるがいい。
シンクロ。
達者でな。
Now time to see what actually happened.
この上は明王の尊良を表し、諸天全身の気髄をもって傲魔の真の姿を見せる。
It's kind of weird how they sequence the events now that I think about it, but it's nice to have a little bit of suspense.
村正めふかしよって正気のかけらも見当たらん。神仏両断とは名ばかりよ。
I mean, it's a shame we don't have the best sword in the game, but eh.
このジンクロ今さら悪あがきはするまい。しかしながらここに来て愉快でならぬ。この体の持ち主には一片の罪もなく、もし詐称の罪があったとしても原因はこちら。
It really is interesting that despite all of Jinkuro's intense and evil ambitions, throughout all this he found something he's willing to do a little bit of good for. And that was Momohime.
それほどまでに娘を助けたいか、ジンクロ。一心に願うその心。悪とはいえど。
Yep, Jinkuro's a big softy.
その口車に乗せられて娘は元に戻してやろうぞ。安堵して地獄へ落ちよ。
It's a weird little color scheme here that we don't really see ever. But these three little maid girls of different colors, yet we don't ever see the other two until this cutscene.
では、雪の女王様の心は変わらずに。まあ、なんと心打たれるお話でございましょう。若君は男前ですから、妬む女中もおりますが、相手は初々しいお姫様。門出を祝いたくもなりまする。噂をすれば桃姫様。あれあれ、何やらただならぬ雰囲気。
Oddly enough, however, Momohime is not going to take Jinkuro's sacrifice sitting down.
桃姫様、なんともったいない。早まってはなりません。仏道と申しても、悟りを得るのは難しいございます。ましてや見るからに可愛らしいお姫様。どうして同心剣護に出家を遂げられましょう。浮世に心残りはありません。これも仏様のお導き。考え抜いた末に決めたことです。
So this is the first of 3 endings for Momohime. 6, well, 3 for her, and there are 3 for Kisuke, so there's 6 endings in total. I feel like the first endings that you get for both characters make sense to what you've seen so far. Because Momohime, while being, you know, led around by Jinkuro by the nose, she's gone through a lot of religious stuff, even to the point where she got to see the exalted Fudo Mio. So naturally it would make sense for her that after all this, she would eventually go down the path of religion after all this. It also makes sense for her character since she's a very forgiving character, almost to a fault. And look at this.
今度こそ改心して御仏のお心に沿いたいと思い立ち、全国暗夜して一からやり直す所存。旅の途中で果てるとも知れず、
Rankai is actually taking his religion seriously now.
悪に強き者はひとたび改心すれば善にも強きと申します。蘭海様なれば必ずや仏果を得られると存じます。出家を決意したこの場に気合わせたのも仏縁の導き。どうぞ蘭海様、受戒をお授けくださいませ。
桃姫、それではどうあってもその姿を変えられて。
Is she really going to be a nun? I don't know if that's what they're called. But then again, I really don't know much about religion, so don't mind me. Some of you will probably correct me in the comments, so take their voice at face value, not mine. So yeah, the main reason Momohime is becoming a Buddhist now is because she wants to help Jinkuro. Probably the only other moment of character development for Momohime. It really is kind of funny that after all this, Jinkuro gets somewhat of a cult following with these two? Because even though he was kind of effectively he was not a good person. He was, in all essences, a bad person. But he was also kind of an anti-hero in this regard. Like, despite his ill intent, he's done good things. Because of that, he has, 2 people praying for him while he boils in hell. Which is more than most people get.
桃姫の心地よき小姉で響く南無阿弥陀仏の称名や果たして地獄の甚九郎の耳に届きましょうか。罰当たりの過ぎる男ゆえ称名エコーも皆なく見事地獄の鬼を出し抜いて浮世に化けて出るとも不思議ではありません。さて怪力乱心を語るべからずとは先人の金言されば諸人の安寧願いおぼろ剣百鬼夜行大略を弁じまして。
Now normally at this point we would get the credits roll. But I feel after the first of 3 endings, we don't quite deserve it yet, so we'll see that later. But there's more to it. Next time on Muramasa the Demon Blade, post-game. After Kisuke's story, that is.